No, actually,
anybody here? Nobody knows. I need some volunteers.
Volunteers?
Where Michael's at?
It's at the door.
What do you need?
He's already volunteering.
Just monitor the event page. People might comment there.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mean the meetup page or
No, the Google
page?
The Google Hangout event page. Alrighty. Alright, gang. I work with food plugins and a bunch of other stuff. They bought you all the beer and pizza, so yay! And we're going to talk about WordPress. Anybody interested? Cool. WordPerfect, exactly. Capital P and WordPerfect. So a couple things. Just want to just do a general intro. Like I said, Food Plugins is the company I work for, and we do build a whole bunch of WordPress plugins. And we just launched Food Gallery, which is pretty stinking awesome if you do galleries at all. And we're getting ready to do a new thing called Food Media in the night. And I brought discount coupons somewhere. So yeah, all kinds of fun stuff there. And right now, I decided to do just a little bit different than our normal format. I decided to do like a presentations and then kind of an open discussion. And of course, we'll ask questions to the presenters, but just a slightly different format because I wanted to end early so that we can maybe go grab a drink afterwards. Chris has a question.
That's fun.
Or is that, do you need a bathroom pass?
Is Hangout offline?
No, it should be online.
Mine's down because it says we lost connection.
I think the internet's
Yeah, my internet
out.
is.
Yeah, I can't load it down any
Crazy too.
Okay, everybody get off.
Yeah, we should be streaming multiple streams on the Wi-Fi. It's probably.
No, we do it every month.
It doesn't work every month, I know. my point.
I see you all still there.
Yeah, I just disconnected and reconnected, and my internet's fine.
Okay.
Are we up?
Yeah, I'm back on too, but
I see you all there.
Oh, I'm up.
We're taking scholarship money for actual landline access to. That might help. So, yeah, so we'll have some presentations, and the theme for the whole night is basically all things media. And I just kind of made that up. I had no idea who would want to present, and it was kind of cool how the presenters came together, and we have a good gamut of different types of media and different approaches to media. So I'm really happy about that. I think it's going to be great. So just real quick, just a couple like general WordPress type things. Some news that's been going on lately. 4.0 is in beta 4 right now. And WP Gavin put up a quick little thing here. It's got some cool stuff coming on. They're adding the media grid. I don't know if you've seen media grid plugin. Basically, it's a grid format for all of your images. Just going to be much easier to find your images in the media library and easier to tag them and edit them and things like that. It's not like a amazing wow, I can't believe they're doing that, but it's a good update, a good improvement. And then we got some other stuff. Kind of hard to read here for me. Sarah Gooding wrote this. All right, I skipped everything that's good. 4.0 beta is coming out. Anybody tested it out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is any one thing really awesome about it?
A lot of little things that are UI is a little more polished in a couple of areas. I haven't gotten too much into it, but I run the regular all the time. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I was trying to envision or talking about the basically the kitchen sink and how it sits at the top of the page and everything rolls underneath it, never moves. So I don't know if anybody's seen that yet. I can't quite envision how it works.
Well, they say it's going to be out by the end of the month. So, I mean, and it's in beta 4 already, and they say it should be the last beta. So, coming whether you like it or not. Cool. And then Web Dev Studios, a big web development company, just took on 2 big hires. I don't know if you heard of Jay Armeda and Suzette Frank. Just within the last couple weeks, they announced both of these guys. And what's cool about this, I think, is one, Web Dev is just a really big company. And these are both Southern California guys, by the way, both Dre and Suzette. And so this is kind of like San Diego, Southern Cal WordPress news. So everybody who thinks that everything's in San Francisco doesn't pay attention. And the first WooConf is coming up. WooConference is doing their very first WooConference, and one of the main speakers is Chris Lemma, who's also a San Diego native. So another really big thing happening that's coming up, and also related to San Diego and California. So I think that's pretty cool too. Anybody planning to go to WooConference?
Where is it?
Thinking about it.
San Francisco.
Oh, it's in California, right?
Yeah.
3rd and 4th, maybe. I don't know. I inquired about sponsoring it. It was pretty. It was like $1,500. I don't know if I might bite that off again, but I'll probably go for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's the very first one. I'm sure they're trying to make a big deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And they're also one of the guys from Yoast is speaking there. I think it's Yoast's brother. How do you actually say his name?
Toast. Part of the US Club.
Say it again?
Toast.
Toast?
Juiced. I don't know the other guy.
Yeah.
Part of the US Club.
Tis.
I thought his name was Juice, but he pronounced it Yoast, so he writes it Yoast, so that we're
I think so. I think that's what it is.
actually new.
Oh, is that right? I never got that.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's his brother, or anyway, he has the same last name. So, and then I think I have one more thing. Oh, just some general code news. A lot of hubbub around the Mail Poet and responsible disclosure. Do you guys follow that at all? There was a big problem where Mail Poet had a big security vulnerability and notified them. Raise your hand if you.
Oh yeah.
Okay. They had a big security vulnerability, and Security alerted them about it. Security, who Dre Armeda used to work for, and they took looks like about 2.5–3 weeks to fix it, and then they fixed it, and it wasn't actually a fix. Security posted a post about the vulnerability, and then a whole ton of sites got hacked. So there was a lot of back and forth, especially in our Facebook group, actually.
That seems to be where all the fights begin.
Yeah, it's like
It was a heated debate.
it's always like you can always see like the WooCommerce people start wanting to join our group when we're talking smack about WooCommerce, and when we talk smack about MailPoet, all of a sudden they all want to join our group and stuff like that.
We should create more.
Yeah, we don't have enough.
Call ourselves journalists.
Soap opera press.
There you go.
Yeah, so it was a big deal, but it was all about the idea of responsible disclosure. It seemed like most of the folks in our group leaned towards security and that they actually did do it responsibly, and MailPoet was just behind the curve in terms of keeping their code secure. But it kind of was a big deal. I also thought it was cool that there was a lot of hubbub around the fact that WordPress can push out updates to WordPress core without you really even knowing it sometimes. And 3.9.2 was basically like that. I don't know about you, but all of a sudden I was getting all these emails like, hey, your WordPress just updated and it's great. I was like, I didn't do that. And then I read about it. I was like, okay, all right, well, I guess that's fine.
They've been wanting to go the Google Chrome route for a long time now. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to see. So with security updates, I'm happy to see that they're being able to push it.
Totally. And so, and what I thought was really cool about it is that happened right after the whole MailPoet security thing, where they're talking about responsible disclosure, and basically there was a big post about the vulnerability after 3.9.2 was pushed out, and basically there wasn't a big it wasn't like a million sites got hacked because of that vulnerability. And so it kind of was like, well, there's kind of further verification behind the curve. But hopefully they learned their lesson. What were you gonna say, Rob?
I was going to say they also WordPress 3.7 and above auto updates security inside a couple sites that are still on 3.7 for lame reasons, and it pushed to those as well. So they rolled out that security patch all the way back to 3.7.4, which is really cool. The one thing that I am surprised about, I don't know if anybody noticed it, but in the Facebook group, there was a posting about being able to hammer at the nonces and create users, admin users, on versions prior to 3.9.2. And there was no discussion really about it other than like, I don't think it works and whatever. And I talked to the guy and how he was doing it. I don't know where he's in a foreign country that I don't remember right now. And he speaks pretty good English for that. But they actually, in 3.9.2, they actually patched that nonce code and like really didn't mention it at all. But I think it was
talking about how phantom admins are inside your WordPress and
can be created inside your WordPress.
Right, and all of a sudden you go in there and you're like, who is this admin?
Yeah.
How did it get there?
Is that the XML RPC stuff or no?
No, it was replicating the call to create a new user, and then you just keep iterating the nonce until it uses a previous one that in the past was in the database. It didn't do this date check very well, and so they patched that, and it was a pretty interesting thing that it sort of went under the rug, and I think that was a pretty major vulnerability that got fixed quickly, but it has been around for a long time.
Were people talking about that? Because I've been trying to find info.
The only thing I saw was the foreign post on this hacker group on Facebook, and then I sort of engaged with them and wanted to get more details.
Well, there was also discussion about it with that one guy. There was a lot of back and forth about it in our Facebook group. One of the core committers who does track stuff all the time. Oh man, I'm losing my mind. I can't remember his name.
I tagged Nason in the post.
Nason, there it is.
Yeah.
Nason actually commented on it a lot. He actually put out a post about it saying that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, he
saying,
finally commented in the group?
yeah, he did.
Okay, that's nice.
I might have missed that one.
This was, I don't know, 4 months ago or so.
Oh, really?
And they, we have a couple folks who are really invested in security stuff, and they were saying this is an issue, and he was saying, it's not a bug, it's just he was, the way he was wording it, it was like it could be stronger, is what he kept saying. It's not actually a bug or a vulnerability, but it can be stronger, and so he was kind of, walking the line on it.
Yeah, I think it was a not easy to hit. So like the Heartbleed, but it's not an easy thing to hit and get some real data. But if you hit it, it worked. Yeah. So
and what would it do once it created these admins?
they can log in as an admin and hack your site or delete your site or whatever they want to do as an admin. They can do whatever they want. Change your database password, all kinds of fun stuff. So it was a real.
That's why WordPress needs strong parameters.
Yeah.
Strong what?
Parameters. It's a way to basically block, like you block the params coming into a site, depending on whether it's a GET request or POST request, to be only specifically the ones that are hard-coded in. So a plugin would have to hard-code in what parameters they allow, and like you can't just pass any parameter that you want, and the application wouldn't accept it by default. Yeah, pretty common across a lot of frameworks. So.
I think that's a lot to do also with that they were storing data in the nonces that was login related, and this was affecting .coms as well.
Oh yeah, the whole cookie thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but. Last two really quick things. I don't know if you saw Tom McFarlane. He has a really great WordPress plugin boilerplate, and he put out a post, I think just today or yesterday, that he's trying to revamp that up to a new, improved, whatever, 2.0 type boilerplate, and he's looking for help and assistance. One guy who's helped him a lot with that is actually Brad Vincent, who's part of FooPlugins. Brad's been helping out with that a lot. He really thinks boilerplates are the future. it's a, I mean, if he can get it really doing what he wants it to do, I think it's going to be a really great way to build plugins. It just can take away a lot of the headache of doing stuff really manually, and you can just tie into the boilerplate class and make settings really easily, things like that. That's the idea. And so if you're interested in that kind of thing, you should look at his post. Just look it up, Tom McFarland, WP plugin boilerplate, and you'll find it. Also, one that I found really interesting, Devin Price is also working on a new customizer library for the theme customizer, since it's been getting all kinds of love from WordPress core. So he's basically building a class so that you can, not a course, but like a PHP class, so that you can hook into that in your custom themes. And that's one thing for me I've always been hesitant to really dig into, because I think it'd be awesome to have customization abilities for my clients, that they'd be able to go and just do basic colors and whatnot with the customizer, because they want it, not because they think it's a good idea, but because they want it. They think they want it until there's unicorns all over their site. But the customizer, I think, is a nice kind of safe parametered area where here's your options. But making the customizer work to that kind of thing it's always been kind of a headache. So I think something like this might really help out, be a cool thing. Did anybody dig into it? See that post or anything? It's cool. Check it out.
There's too much content nowadays to go through all of it.
Yeah, I just try to hit on the top things. So first up, we're actually on Nic Mitchell. He's going to come and talk about a way he tied into a video embed plugin and made it actually like a pay-per-view plugin. So that in order to view the video, you have to pay to see it. And it's pretty cool from what I've seen of it, and he's going to show us even more. So come on up. Sure. Do you have HDMI?
I think so.
We are HDMI snobs.
Yes. Yeah.
And I can get pizza and beer. Hallelujah. Is the pizza any good? Is the beer any good?
Yeah, it's good.
Open sex pizza.
Okay.
Whoa.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
I'm Nick. I was going to talk about something that I don't think gets talked about a lot, very much in WordPress, it seems to me. To give you some background, for about the past 2 years, I was working with a company, and the whole purpose of the company was to build a live streaming video platform, and we chose WordPress to essentially serve as the front end of all that stuff. So a user can go in, a multi-site environment is the idea. They purchase a site, they go in and they can manage the broadcasting and all their video directly in WordPress. They don't have to go to any of the external services, they don't have to log in anywhere else. They can do it all from the WordPress dashboard. So throughout that time, we had the holy triumvirate, which was Kaltura, Wowza, and WordPress, and that's kind of what I'm going to go over. Kaltura is pretty sweet. Anybody heard of or worked with Kaltura before? One. All right. How about Wowza? Anybody? Kaltura or both? Okay.
Kaltura is open source.
It is. Kaltura has actually two options. There's the paid version, which is kind of pricey, but it's much more stable than the open source version.
We can do it on purpose.
There is a conspiracy that is the case. I've spoken to Kaltura people, and I think there's a reason why. But
Can you share your screen with that one?
oh, you know what? I think it might be muted as well.
Oh, yeah. No, you can stay muted. Your mic can stay muted.
Okay.
So we got this guy.
That was not shared.
Just do the green, yeah, that guy, and then choose the screen.
Okay.
Awesome.
We're good?
Nice.
Okay. We're back?
Yep.
Okay, we're back. So briefly, what is Kaltura? Because I don't have a whole lot of time. But Kaltura is a completely very robust video management system. There is an open source version that's written primarily in PHP so you can go in and hack it. Extensive, very robust API that you can do all sorts of cool stuff with, and has a bunch of different client libraries you can download too. So you don't have to code it in PHP. You can download the Java library, the JavaScript library, Python, yada yada. There are like 9 or 10 of them. They're also a WordPress VIP partner, just to give a little bit of legitimacy to it even more. They work with WordPress VIP. It handles all the video transcoding and optimization. So if you're currently going in and you put in the video tags and you're doing all your stuff by yourself, this does it all. You upload a video, you can throw almost any type of video format at it. If it's an FLV, an OGG, real media even, you can upload it to Kaltura. It'll transcode it to whatever you want, and it'll automatically configure the player to spit out the best video for whatever device you're accessing the video on, whether it be an iPhone, Chrome on your laptop, or whatever it is. And it also does the same thing for live streaming as well. It has good live streaming integration, also has really fine-grained user control, and you can template those, which means that you can create a user template, and then every new user you create will follow whatever parameters you set up for that template, and you can create multiple templates. Also has remote storage and drop folders, so you can pass stuff around. Really cool stuff you can do with the players, like playlist players. Kind of like how YouTube has the playlists. You can just put all your videos in there and it'll just appear in one player when it's embedded on the video. There's also really cool control you can do with the distribution, meaning that you can allow people to watch or not watch a video based on whether they're authorized through a token, basically a session. You can limit the video to only be playable in certain countries. You can also limit it to only be playable on certain domains, so that if someone's trying to rip your video and post it on their own website, let's say this video is not available for whatever the error message that you set it to be. You can also trim your toenails, which is currently in beta, and it's used to brew your coffee, but that feature's been deprecated.
So ones that you can't talk about.
Nick, sorry, try one more time, share your screen.
Sure. Is it my fault? Did I do something wrong?
Yeah, do that one.
We're back.
Not seeing it.
What are you seeing?
Blackness.
So it's my heart that you're seeing. It does show me as black. Show one more time. It's showing, I'm sharing it. You still see black?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think it's because you have you selected, maybe?
I have, what's that?
Oh, no.
I have Nick selected.
Oh. Selected. Wow. Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah.
Is anybody watching it online?
Yeah, we got 6 viewers who are all really pissed at you right now.
That's right, I'm used to it.
Post it on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
Well, should I carry on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you're the user.
Oops.
Here.
Okay, so carrying on. What is Wowza then? Oops, wrong screen. Here we go. Wowza is a live streaming server. So as opposed to just serving up static videos like YouTube, it actually does live streaming, kind of like we're doing right now with Google Hangouts or live stream or all those type of things. Commercial grade. I mean, like the top websites that do this streaming use Wowza. It's surprisingly easy to configure compared to Kaltura, which is notorious for being impossible to set up. It's as simple as just editing an XML config file to do whatever you want it to do. And even now they've released a GUI that you just point and click. It's insanely easy how easy it is to get a streaming server up and running. It is commercial only, there's no free version, but the fees are very friendly, especially compared to something like Adobe Flash Media Server. What's really cool is it does transcoding and transmuxing of your live signals, which means that if you send up a flash signal, it will take it and automatically transcode it into either HLS, HDS, Silverlight, or there's even basic support for MPEG-Dash, which basically just means no matter what device someone is trying to view your live stream on, they can see it, whether it's iOS or Android or Chrome on Android, which is different than the normal internet app on Android. You can also record the live streams. It does ABR, which is really cool. It's adjustable bitrate, meaning it will adapt the stream depending on your internet connection. So if your connection slows down, it'll actually degrade the quality of the stream so that it doesn't drop entirely, and you can keep watching it. The DVR also means that you can seek within a live stream so that you can actually rewind as someone is broadcasting live, and then you can fast forward to catch back up to wherever it was. In the release candidate 40079, it does herd cats as well, but that one's highly experimental.
Have you ever played around with FF Server?
With FF Server?
Yeah.
No, I have not.
It's the FFmpeg version of all of this.
Okay.
It handles streaming, it handles all the same stuff.
I played with Red 5. Is it?
No, it's different. It's an open source project. I don't know. I think it's part of like, it's not part of the Apache project. Just look up FF Server when you get a chance.
FF Server. Okay.
It's basically FFmpeg with a shell.
Okay.
So it handles all of the streaming connections and everything else for you. So
Kaltura is built on FFmpeg.
Okay. So just think of it as a more open source version than even Kaltura.
Okay. Does that have decent support or decent community? That's one of the products of Kaltura.
It's supported by the same community that supports FFmpeg.
Okay. All right.
So
bigger.
meaning you're going to end up, if you have a technical question, you'll get an answer right away. If you have a how do I set it up question,
we'll get an answer. Okay.
Like, how do I write this command line to do this specific thing? You'll get the answer right away. If it's, how do I set this thing up? No, you're not.
RTFM, right? So to set up what I'm going to show you, basically need some sort of, you need at least 2 VPSs or an Amazon cluster. So I'm going to put Kaltura. Alone take a lot of space, but then when you transcode them into all the different types of video that you need to serve across all these devices, it's going to take even more space. Your WordPress hosting of choice, whether that's WP Engine or anything like that, you're going to use the Kaltura WordPress plugin, which is part of the problem. If you're using the commercial version of Kaltura, the plugin will work fine. If you're using the open source version of Kaltura, it requires a lot of customization, unfortunately. And that's why you need buckets of patience. But after a while, you'll profit. So here's the basic architecture of how it's set up. Is over in the, you got the Kaltura video or your Amazon cluster. This is for people who need visual, drew you a picture, which basically feeds into the Kaltura API, which feeds into their WordPress plugin. The Wowza streaming server plugs into the WordPress plugin, and then over here is what I'm talking about, where we built our own custom post type plugin that pulls from the Kaltura API, and all of this feeds in through the WordPress front end. So no user ever has to deal with any of this. They only deal with WordPress. So the whole idea also was to create a pay-per-view aspect. So I won't go over this in detail, but the basic idea is there were multiple checks. There are multiple ways that someone can buy media. So we're going to create pay-per-view videos, and a user can create a video where you just have to pay for access to that single video, or that video could belong to a channel. And a channel is like a group. If you think of like a membership plugin, if you buy access to that membership, then you get access to that. So you can attach videos to a channel. If they purchase that channel, they get access to it. And then we also built something where we create a pay-per-site access, meaning that with a multi-site environment, someone could make their entire site be pay to access it. So if there's zero free content, and then you have to pay to get whatever's in there. All right, so let's do some demos. Enough of this stuff. Hopefully the internet doesn't drop out again. So I'm going to show you a site that was one of our clients. This is a client who used it probably the most effectively. This is a MMA network. They did local MMA stuff, which is mixed martial arts. So fights, lots of blood, lots of guts. Well, not guts, but lots of blood. This is a company called Roctagon. So If we go into media and just go into the videos, these are all the videos that they've uploaded, and these are just custom post types with a thumbnail. Kaltura actually generates a thumbnail for you, so we made it so it checks.
Just try one more time to do the screen share.
Sure.
Nobody's
Maybe
seeing
it'll work. Yeah. All right. Well, you can use your imagination. Isn't it even better?
You have to describe the blood and gore more.
There are some pretty nasty pictures on here. I'm showing that I'm sharing it.
So Kaltura has its own player. Is that what it is essentially?
Yes, and actually, you can. It has its own player, and there are a lot of different. There's a thing they call the studio, which means you can go in and design your player as well. Skins, but there's a bunch of plugins that you can send into it too. I mean, you can put a watermark on it. You can put logos on it. It's even 508 compliant. You have those options as well, which is like for people with disabilities and things like that.
Do you know
Closed
if you can
captioning.
pull media from YouTube or Vimeo?
You can. You can. You can actually do that directly through WordPress. I've turned that off here, but their plugin lets you do that. It looked like I was sharing my screen, and then it looked like it went black again. What do you got, Matt? Anything? Nothing?
Go for it.
All right. Carry on. Okay, so videos, Kaltura generates these thumbnails, and we set it up so that you can actually create a custom thumbnail as well. If you don't like what Kaltura gives you, you can upload your own thumbnail. What they look like, let me flip back. I think this is a pay-per-view. That'd be a good one to start with. Yeah, there we go. Let's start in a new screen, actually. So let's say you create a pay-per-view video on. First thing you're going to get is a register wall. So first it's going to ask you to register, either log in or register. Once you do log in, then it's going to ask you, it's going to tell you it's a pay-per-view video, and you have to add to your cart to buy it. This is all integrated into WooCommerce, so that once you add it to cart, it will add it to your WooCommerce cart. And there are going to be a couple of UI problems on here.
So much harder to do in 2009.
Yeah, actually, this was harder to do a year ago.
Yeah, I did something similar to this in WordPress 2009 for epic fighting, and using Justin.tv and like some weird off-the-wall plugin that had exactly the components that I needed to be able to do very narrow things. I mean, looking at this, it's like, wow, this is way better.
And to back up a step, actually, to mention that, because you said Justin TV, the power of this is you control everything. You control the entire architecture. You control the media server, the video server, and the applications, in terms of for all of you, is either one, you can replicate a business model similar to this. You can offer pay-per-view content to create your own product, or this is something you could offer your clients. But even more so, just from a pragmatic standpoint, if you get a Kaltura server up and running, you can manage all your clients' stuff in one place. You don't have to log into all these YouTube accounts, all these Vimeo accounts, and then copy the embed code, put the shortcode in WordPress or whatever. It's all here in one place. And you can manage your clients in the Kaltura installation, so you can control what access they get and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's the really cool part about this.
If you do it on AWS, you can bring the server size up and down as you see fit.
Exactly, and you can automate it. You can connect all that stuff to the API, and it'll auto-scale for you. So if you hit certain thresholds, it'll burst, and yeah, probably shouldn't go off on that tangent, but there's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do from that standpoint. So that's the basic e-commerce aspect of it. This is all integrated into WooCommerce, so you get all the order tracking and all the product tracking and stuff like that. So let's take a look at what it looks like on the back end. In this, there are 3 custom post types that we're using. We use videos, we use channels, and we use events. Let's start with videos, since that's what we talked about first. We'll go in to edit that pay-per-view we were just looking at. So, to add a video, you come here and click Add Video. And what it'll do is it pulls up the Kaltura library. And this is actually the screen credits where you can pull in different providers.
Is this using their plugin, or is this a plugin you guys developed?
This is their plugin that we customized,
Got it.
both in style and some functionality as well. So over here where it says upload, there are a couple additional tags. There's Meta Cafe and YouTube. Cafe even still around, now that I think about it. But there are a couple that you can import directly into it. So then you can browse pick whatever video you want, upload it directly in. I didn't have one up. Yeah, let's just see if I can pull this one in. Click upload, and it starts to upload that video. Oh, and also, I guess I'll point out I won't move on, but it can also import videos from Flickr and stuff like that. It has more media capabilities besides just videos, but I figured let WordPress do that. It kind of makes more sense. So then you just carry on while you're uploading. Carry on. Okay, it's fun to get to the shortcode generator. It does actually spit out a shortcode. There we go. So this is going to show an error because it's currently uploading, and it also has to run some processes on the video. But when you click Insert into Post, it will spit out a shortcode for you. If you're in the Visual tab, it'll show it as player goes here. If you're in the text, you can actually see the shortcode get spit out, which we don't need to go over in detail. So this is mostly what we added in the UI, or the video details section. And hopefully you can see this okay. I don't know if I can zoom in. Well, I think I'll try it on a laptop. Zoom in on a laptop? I don't know how to do it on a...
Command plus.
Oh, okay, there we go. Much better. So the video details, do you want to charge to see this video? Yes. Set your ticket price, $5 or whatever. We have a 3.5 transaction fees based on the merchant account and blah, blah, blah. Which means that the net income take for this broadcaster is going to be $4.82 for every one of these videos they sell. The attached to channel is what I was talking about, where a channel in this context is a live streaming channel. If you attach this to a channel, it means if a user purchases a monthly subscription to that channel, they'll also get access to this video. You can also just choose to show other videos, and then you can choose if you want to show them by category, whatever. This is kind of self-explanatory. So we really tried to simplify this, but also make it powerful as well. Then when you publish it, we already saw the front end. And also, again, if you wanted to create a different thumbnail, you can set the featured image just as you normally would, and that would change the thumbnail that gets shown in the archive pages. So actually, back to videos, and since you haven't actually seen a video, maybe I should show you one of those. One that's not a pay-per-view. That should work. Oh, and also their plugin has sharing options that are built in. So if you click share, it'll spit out the actual permalink for this video, wherever it sits, which is cool. And then if you put in the open graph data in your theme, so that when we put it on Facebook, it'll actually embed the video automatically on Facebook for you. And the same goes for your live streams. You can actually put one of these players on Facebook, and you can broadcast live through Facebook, if that's something that you want to do.
Does Kaltura has any chat room feature?
They, not native. We actually did add one on here. It's turned off because it's really server intensive, at least the ones we were using.
Right.
So we never really optimized it very well, but ours could handle a couple hundred chatters at a time, at least the way we were set up. There is actually a WordPress plugin called Quick Chat that allows for chat rooms. But it'll just hammer your WordPress server,
Right.
if that's the one you want to go with. But it works pretty well out of the box, surprisingly enough. Okay, I'm going to move on to channels, which are live streaming. Any questions on anything I've gone over yet? Or have I lost everybody?
Do you know what the payment is, like what their difference between a free account and a paid account? What the
With Kaltura?
regulations are? Yeah. Because it doesn't say on their website.
No, yeah, Kaltura.com is the commercial version. Kaltura.org is the community edition, is what the free source one is called. Yeah, they won't give you pricing on the Kaltura.com site. You have to talk to the sales rep, in which case they want to
So the
sell you
solution that you set up, though, is that using .org? So that's not costing your clients money on the Kaltura side?
Correct.
Okay.
And actually, you'd probably eat that cost anyway. Even if you use the paid Kaltura version, that would just be because they manage the servers, they manage the CDN, they automatically set up live streaming through Akamai for you. So you wouldn't. Your clients would not set up an account with Kaltura. You set up the account with Kaltura, and then you just charge them whatever for that. I know it starts at around $1,200 a month for like their basic level. I think you can see like a couple terabytes of storage plus their CDN and live streaming. Apart from that, I don't remember.
For them to set everything up for you.
Well, you're paying for them to set it up, and you're paying for the peace of mind that you know it works flawlessly. Which, trust me, is worth a lot. This is some complicated stuff. There are a lot of moving parts that you're not seeing in many sleepless nights. Channels. Again, this is live streaming. So everything we just saw with videos is Kaltura. Everything we're going to talk about with channels is with Wowza, although this does feed through the Kaltura plugin and feed through our custom post type plugin. So these settings here, there's nothing to insert because we automatically have it set up as part of the custom post type template that'll spit out the channel player. And the channel details are pretty easy to set up. Again, if you want to charge, this is a monthly subscription, and this is set up through WooCommerce subscriptions. And you can have certain options that we didn't get this set up with the DVR, so we set up some options depending on what the user's going to see if you're off air. So you can either choose to show the live broadcast, or if you want to display an off-air message, or you can have it selected to play the most recent video so that someone just doesn't land on an empty player. There will actually be a promo video or whatever you want to do in there. Or you can choose to have it play a very specific video that you have in your library anywhere. This is where you can display the chat on the channel page, as you asked Fabio. And this is for the actual live streaming part. If you ever anyone use the live streaming client, like Flash Media Encoder or anything like that? No? Okay. Well, then maybe I won't go for this. But basically, you need somehow to connect to the server. And these are just your credentials that tell you how to log in. And these will be unique for every user. So when you use a broadcaster, you have to have a URL to connect to, and then you have to have a stream name, which is basically like a password. There's additional stuff, but I won't go into that. So then what we also did on top of this was to create events as a custom post type, meaning that when you create a new event, you can attach it to this channel. So let's say we're doing this live broadcast. We could do this instead of Google Hangout. We could actually set it up to show up on Rockagon. People could go to the Rockagon channel and watch this live. And it's all self-contained. We're not using Google. We're not relying on anything else. Now let's say my presentation, because it's so awesome, we wanted to charge people to see it, and only my presentation. We could actually set up an event that would start at 7 o'clock and end at 7:30, and charge for it. So we want to charge $300 because that's just how amazing I am. Whichever channel we want to attach it to. And so what will happen at this point is I won't go through all the time to make sure it actually works because I'm probably already over my allotted time frame. But if someone's watching the channel, the page will automatically refresh, and it'll get that paywall that says you have to pay to watch this video. They can click to add to the cart, pay through WooCommerce, and they'll get access to watch that live event. Now, there's actually additional stuff you can do with Kaltura where you can validate it directly in the player. So then you can actually take the player, embed it on another website, and you could still create that paywall, which is pretty cool. Never got to that, unfortunately. The media gallery. A couple things that Kaltura did really well, this is what you were talking about, Matt, with the media gallery integration, is that two things. One is this is integrated in the normal WordPress media gallery, and I'll get to that in a second because I want to show this first. You can create bulk posts. Kaltura is originally designed to work with normal posts, but since we created video custom post types, we changed it a little bit. So let's say you've got a new client and they have 200 videos. Uploading them one by one through the WordPress interface is going to really kind of suck because it's browser-based and it could time out. There are all sorts of issues that could happen that way. So you can actually upload them through the backend in Kaltura for your client, and then you can just give them a category or a tag. There's tons of metadata that you can drop into your entries in your videos. Then you can click on Create Bulk Video Posts, select which category you want to create, and click Apply, and it'll automatically create all those posts in WordPress for you, just like that, with whatever parameters you want to set. And this script is really easy to edit too. So if there are any specific metadata you want to put in that post, it's super easy to just modify that file in the plugin and do whatever you want with it. Lots of configuration options. So in the media library shows, what am I looking for? Oh, yeah, this. I guess I can do it to a post, all right. So here's the normal WordPress media library. You can click on Browse Existing Media, and it will show all your videos in here. And if you forgot what these videos are, you can click on it, and it'll bring up the preview video for you. And you can actually watch that video right here. Here is, and you can also select which player you want. So if you've designed a bunch of players for this particular user, this broadcaster, they can select which player they want to have on this particular video, and of course that's something you could charge for or whatever. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. I went over a lot pretty quickly. I could show you the Kaltura backend if you want, but I don't know how much time I have. I just will note though that the Kaltura does not have a front end at all. It's only a backend admin thing. You log in and you can manage your videos and that's it. The only Kaltura front end that does exist is something called Media Space, which you can only get if you are as far as I know, actually only what they call the on-prem user of Kaltura, which is where you can install their commercial-grade version of Kaltura behind your own firewall, and it starts at like 80 grand a year. So they have like banks and financial institutions that do that stuff. So apart from that, you have to build your own front end of Kaltura. But so that's why WordPress made such a fantastic option. But you could do it with really any content management system. And again, with all their client libraries that they have, choose your language of choice, and you can extend it to your heart's content.
How much are you selling this plugin for?
Yeah, what's your plans with the plugin?
That's a fantastic question, and I have no idea, unfortunately, because I don't know the legal implications of.
Reach out to Lima or somebody like that and talk to them about it. As from a product perspective,
Well, truth be told, I'd actually rather start from scratch and rebuild what I've done here because I can do it faster and leaner, and I think I can build an actual better product. And then I don't have to deal with the lawsuit that these plugins got dragged through.
So you're saying Kaltura does not have a plugin. The plugin is the one you developed.
No, Kaltura has a plugin.
Oh.
They do have a plugin. Oh,
And then
actually,
you have the,
yeah, if you want, I have a couple additional links you can check out.
Can we turn off the live stream for a second?
I don't think I can.
Keep things off the record.
We can keep things off the record later.
Well, I was gonna. Well, if it's live streaming right now, then it's automatically on the record.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe we can do it later.
Okay,
Talk later? Yeah.
I got a couple of interesting questions.
We can have our illegal conversations over beer.
We need more beer, etc.
You won't shut me up if that happens. But to answer the
That's
question,
on the
Chris,
record.
here's some links. If you want more information on Kaltura, to get an idea of their features, go to kaltura.com. If you want to check out the server itself, go to GitHub's the best place if you want to check out the open source version. Go to Kaltura/server. As of about 6 months ago, they alleviated a massive headache where you can install Kaltura through package managers, which is, I mean, it used to take literally about 5-6 hours to install Kaltura if you knew what you were doing. And it would take a couple days if you didn't know what you're doing. But the package manager takes like an hour. There's still some problems, it's still finicky, but that's a great place to check that out. If you want more information on wowza.com. There's a really cool integration with Kaltura that I haven't got a chance to check out yet, which is the GitHub one right there, where Wowza integrates with Kaltura. Wait a minute. I didn't answer your question. I was trying to answer your question and I missed it. Remind me again, what were you asking?
they have their own plugin.
Their own plugin. I didn't put that on here. I thought I did. Okay. They do have their own plugin. You can get it in the normal WordPress repository. If you use it with the normal Kaltura server, it will work fine. If you use it with the Community Edition open source one, you will have to edit at least the settings.ini file, and you basically just have to point it at your own server. Apart from that, though, you do have to understand how it handles what they call UI confs, which is basically UI configuration. and those manage basically all the different views in Kaltura. So you have to change which one it points to, because they're going to be different on your own installation than it is on.
So really, their plugins just made to work with the commercial Kaltura site, and you're hacking it up.
Pretty much. That's pretty much it. But the thing is, it wouldn't take a whole lot of work, honestly, to just tweak their plugin and make it work more easily with the open source one. But
That would be a legal battle. Just...
Well, that's not a legal battle. That's not a problem. Okay. Just no one's done it. I haven't had the time to do it. That's not the.
Okay.
My legal issues are not with Kaltura.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I was thinking it was like a Kaltura situation.
No.
That you're having issues with. All right.
Kaltura is fantastic. They're a great company. I highly recommend them. Great people to talk to. Very helpful in general. And a good amount of support actually on GitHub. And they really do try, even though they get a lot of crap for not enough support. They actually put a lot of sweat into supporting people that they don't get anything back from. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions? That's it.
Alrighty. Next up, I believe is AJ.
AJ.
Thanks, Nick.
Sure, my pleasure.
I guess I'm gonna keep this quick because all that I have is just some brain food for you to nibble on. Matt told me to present on something WordPress based. I said I didn't have anything. He told me to keep thinking. So on a recent project, I had to make some images go from black and white to color when you hover over them. Yes, it works. Sweet. So, I thought that's really easy. I will just do a CSS filter. Just grayscale, 100% by normal, 0% on hover, and be done. And it was awesome. It worked great until I realized it didn't work at all in Firefox. So I went back to the great Google. I found a jQuery little library called jQuery Black and White. That guy. And it worked. It was pretty awesome. I just enqueued it, entered in the mockup, and I was done. And then Matt told me to start thinking about something WordPress-based. I thought, why was that so easy to do on the developer end, and why wasn't there just something in the image, the media library, the manager, something already set up for that, because it was so easy on the dev side. So I started looking for plugins, thinking about what the problem actually was. I came across a lot of tools that will just let you drop in your media and add crazy paneling effects or tons of filters and just do literally everything that you could never even imagine you'd want to do. It was weird because it's kind of like right in the middle of, it's so easy to do from a developer end, for most of us, you just queue a new script and you're done, versus a user who has no idea what the code is, who wants probably everything. They're not looking for just a specific black and white on hover type of thing. Matt suggested probably look at SVG might be a good option. He's told me to do FooGallery. I wonder why. And yeah, that's just kind of what I wanted to bring to your attention. We can talk about it after, talk about it now. These are some of the other tools I found. The image effects generator looked pretty cool. Once you upload your image to the media gallery, it's supposed to create different versions of it. You'd say like, I want a black and white, a blurred, a sharpened, a weird color of everything, and it would make images of that, but it didn't work. CSS thumbnail sprites had a lot of potential. I think what that one was supposed to do was similar thing and make a sprite out of your thumbnail on your image. Also didn't work. Rounded plugin did work, but did a totally different thing. What that one does is once you add the media to your post, you can give it CSS border effects. So drop shadow, rounded borders, border width, different sizes, colors, stuff like that. And it had an interesting interface because just as soon as you add your media, just like you would set the size of it, the link it's going to, you could set those settings. But the only way to change them after you add it is to remove the image and then re-add it, which is pretty lame. Pieces and any hover image effects are two things I found on Code Canyon. They looked pretty good. They were just those kind of really intense things that did 100 of effects on it, and that's their selling point. They'll do anything you need. And I don't really want everything. I just want a little black and white hover effect. Yeah, that's it. Questions? Yeah.
I did find a way to do that with only CSS. There's like a pretty complicated filter that goes on it, and that seems to make it work okay.
In Firefox?
In Firefox, yeah. I feel like I tried, I don't know if it was that jQuery one I tried. I felt like there was some issue with it, but it might have just been like Internet Explorer or something had a problem with it. But yeah, the CSS worked fine for at least, Chrome and Firefox.
I mean, like I mentioned to AJ, I just put out a template for a Food Gallery that has a black and white effect, the zoom template that I did, and the only way I can make it work with Firefox, I don't know why Firefox is being such a jerk about it, but that it has to use an SVG filter, basically. And there is a way to do an SVG filter in pure CSS, but why? I mean,
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and it's because it's just a pain. It's just really ugly. But in the end, you don't actually need an SVG file to do it. It's just an SVG filter, and I don't know exactly how that works. But basically, I know how I got it to work, but I don't know what the technology is behind that tag. It's an SVG tag, basically, that sits on top of your image, and in Firefox it filters it. So
yeah, I just cut and pasted it, and it worked fine. I never even looked to see how it works, but yeah, I feel like there's a really long string of all this content. And I'm looking at the CSS right now.
It's like my code works, but I don't know why.
It's exactly, for me, it's exactly the case. I'm like, oh crap, it works. Don't touch it, don't touch it.
Thank you, Adrian. Appreciate it.
All right, next up to bat, I believe we have Chris. Chris Perryman. No, we have Devin. I'm sorry, we have Devin.
All right. Who is that?
The other Chris, whose name is Devin.
Pizza break.
Yeah, grab a beer, grab a pizza, folks.
Please, get a pizza. I don't want to be holding this stuff back in the car. I'm not saying that you guys have to drink irresponsibly. I'm just saying the beer gotta go.
You're saying beers.
So how are you doing? How's the Mission Valley working out for you? Well, the outside observer, that seems like every 4 months.
No, yeah.
So you're doing your stuff for time now?
For the time being, yeah. I didn't cash for the last meeting. So it's pretty happy for the until I have more. It's like Led Zeppelin.
Software.
It's true.
Programming.
Good, yeah. Trying to get some good bookings through the door. And, yeah. Cash flow.
Not working for
You have coupons here, plug-in coupons, and a little sticker for your laptop.
I already bought all your stuff.
We got new stuff all the time.
My favorite part is That's half the time I love it because I know I'm putting out yeah, like, he was talking, and I missed his I saw it at, WordPress.
All set?
And I was like, well, whatever,
Do it.
yeah, I really like to talk. That's the kind of thing.
You're on.
Yeah.
Good?
All right, guys. All eyes up front.
Okay, so what I'm going to show you today is a recent kind of tactic I used to create responsive images per device on a recent project I did. The two plugins I used to do this were called Mobile, I think it's called, M-O-B-B-L-E, and got it pulled up right here. Basically what this plugin does is provide a lot of great functions for conditional statements such as is iPhone, is mobile, is tablet, and then you can even go like per device, so is iPhone, well I just said that, or is Android, is Samsung. So there's all sorts of these, there's a whole list provided by them, and it allows you to really get granular with what you want to serve up per device. And I just stumbled by this the other day, and it seemed very nifty for what it does. The only caveat was you probably should put this in your must-use plugins folder since you're relying on these conditional statements, and if you or a client deactivates the plugin, you'll get a bunch of fatal errors, and your site will go down. So put it in a must-use plugin folder if you do use it, or you can actually just incorporate it within your theme or whatever plugin you're using.
Isn't this built on top of there's a project in Git, right?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked into like how or when it was built or what. But I imagine it might be based off of a project on GitHub. So that's the first part of my solution. The second part is this EWWW Image Optimizer. I'm not sure how to say the exact name. This has been mentioned a couple of times. It's been mentioned a couple of times within this meetup, and at a couple WordCamps, and it's really popular. I mean, since I first saw it, I think 2 years ago, you know, it's gotten nothing but really good reviews. I've used it with success, just building this site I'm using locally. It's from it's like the client hands me like 6,000 pixel wide images, and they're like 6 megabytes. What this does is allow you to upload those in the media uploader, and it'll have them resized specifically to whatever proportions you want, and then it's nearly lossless compression. I did experience a little bit of lag time between it generating these optimized images. It was, you know, up to 30 seconds per image, so I was kind of waiting for it to pump through these images, but again, that's on my local host. If you're on a more powerful server, it probably will churn through them faster.
Does that delete the original?
No, so that's a really good question. It always saves the original file, but there are plugins, you know, if you don't want to have those large files on your server, that will delete them, but I think it's better just to keep them. You know, server space is cheap, and you can always regenerate your thumbnails off of it. Yeah.
Can you resize and crop?
Yes. So you can actually resize to whatever proportions you want, and then you can crop them as you like within the media uploader or however you normally do that. Yeah.
I just want to make a comment. There is the option, if you do want to override it, it is one of the options in the plugin to override the original image with the...
And delete them, I think, too. Yeah, it's some great options in it. Like, I can just show you really quickly. Once you install and activate it, you see this EU Image Optimizer here. And there's, you know, it depends on your server to do these certain types of compression, such as it'll show you, like, your converting, you know, PHP libraries or graphic libraries, they call it. And if you don't have those installed for some reason, you can use a third-party service that they have. I imagine it's not free. I think it says cloud setting here. It says purchase an API key. But yeah, most servers have this configured. I put a site on HostGator. It does. My local desktop server, I mean XAMPP, you know, one of the previous versions has it. So I imagine most servers have it. It's got a whole slew of options right here, and some explanations to it. And basically, you can convert images, you can do all sorts of stuff. So check it out. So that's what I'm using to optimize the images. So basically, what my solution is within. All right. So step one, create your necessary image sizes for small images. So if I go to settings and then media, you can see you have like a large, medium, and thumbnail size. If you need additional sizes on top of this, you can use the add image size function within the WordPress codex, and then you can specify exactly what size images you want and how they're cropped. Then what you do is, once you have your sizes figured out, you can regenerate your thumbnails, because if you resize from what you already have set here, it won't automatically resize whatever you've uploaded. So you can use a plugin called Regenerate Thumbnails, which is one of the most popular WordPress plugins, which when you do regenerate them, it will as well run this image optimizer. So not only are you regenerating them, you're also optimizing them. So that's beneficial as well. So that's for an existing site, not a new site you're building. Finally, once you have all the image sizes ready to be pulled, you're going to go into your WordPress code and just write a simple conditional statement. Sorry, let me open my project here. And I'll expand this code so it looks larger. But basically what it is I have a custom field that is in a repeater for an image. So it pulls your image object here, which the image object contains all the sizes for that image and the alt text or whatever other metadata you have on top of it. And then a very simple conditional statement like is iPhone, and then you pull the small size, is tablet, and you pull the medium size, and then is large, so you pull the large class. And then finally, what I'm doing here is a little bit of fancy stuff with data attribute, but you just basically output it in an image tag or however you want to use it, and it will pull that image for those devices. So, for instance, you don't want to load the full image on an iPhone because that would take all day, and users aren't going to wait for that. So, pulls that nicer, small-sized image and really cuts down on the load time.
Max width 100% wasn't good enough for you?
Hmm?
I said max width 100% wasn't good enough.
No.
So that the code that you have there works for any image on the whole site, not just specific images?
Well, this one's just going to pull, like, I'll show you what this is going to pull for. This is just going to pull for this particular situation, which is this homepage slider thing here. So, like, basically, you know, this is a large image here. So it's going to use this large image. If I was on an iPhone, it's going to be a much smaller square.
It's still really useful.
Yeah, so like I kind of reuse this conditional statement on other places in the code as well. It looks just like this. So if it's a blog post, and they have like large blog post images on here. So like, for instance, if it's an iPhone, it's just going to pull the small version, whereas if it's not, it'll pull the larger one.
You created that small size though. You added that as an image size.
Actually, I'm using this media thumbnail
Oh,
size.
that one.
Right? Oh, actually, I did create more
one.
sizes.
Small sizes.
Yeah, so like what I did is I just added new images size right here, so you can see that I have a small size and then a thumbnail size, and well, actually I shouldn't have that as duplicate, but
yeah.
So if the plugin's active, will it automatically do that for anything that gets uploaded with the media uploader, or do you once you upload something, you specify what the size is?
all I did was I activated it and clicked a few settings, not really knowing what I was doing, and it worked just fine.
For everything.
Yeah, so like it wasn't a hard setup for me, and
That's really cool.
And then I double checked, like I var dumped what it outputs here for this image VG, and I just checked that URL to make sure the size was right, and just double checked that I have all my, you know, conditionals lined up properly, and it works fine.
So if you set up a site for a client and then you have this plugin running, if they go and upload like a 6,000 pixel wide image for a blog post, it's going to be optimized and regardless.
It won't use that large image.
Yeah.
Right. And it will keep that large file on the server if you want, or it can trash it. So I found this to be one of the best ways so far for optimizing images. I'm not sure what other people are using, but this has kind of been working for me for the last couple sites where, you know, I really wanted to cut down on the load time, and the users or the client was, or the design, excuse me, was very image heavy. What else I'm doing is, for instance, on the home page, I'm preloading next, you know, the images that show up. So there's like 11 slides, and it's not going to load all 11 images. It's going to detect where you are, and it's going to load according to where you appear on it. So like if I'm on the second slide, now it's loading the third slide image. On the third slide, then it loads the fourth slide image. So it's kind of, you have to, and you have to go back, and it was a little tricky, but that way you're not waiting all day for this stuff to load.
So if somebody's like shrinking, if they're on the computer at home or laptop, and they're shrinking the viewport down, it's not really going to scale the images because it's still coming through the same device.
Right. So like if I loaded it like in this kind of smaller type of proportion or resolution, it's going to say you're on a PC, so you're going to get the large image. It doesn't look at the width of the browser, it looks at the device. So some people, if they're not aware you're using this plugin, they're trying to QA your site on the actual PC, and they're, you know, doing it like this, and you have to be able to tell them that, you know, you should check it on your device to make sure that images are pulling. I think you can use the emulator tool within Expand Element to trick your browser or trick the software. So if I said like I'm an iPhone, it'll use the user agent of an iPhone, and then you can verify that it's the right image. But that was the first time I checked that, so I haven't really looked into that yet. But it does look like it's sort of working. So good question on that. Any questions on that? I only have a couple other things. Yeah.
Did you compare it with? Have you heard of Hammy? Hammy's.
Mm-hmm.
Do you compare it with that at all?
You know, I totally didn't even think of using Hammy for this site. I did look at that. It provides a similar type of thing. It's called Hammy WordPress plugin. I'm not sure how it differs with Image Uploader, or Optimizer, but this doesn't have as good of ratings as the other one by far.
It doesn't do the. It does the second step that you did. It loads the smaller size images depending on the device.
Oh, well, that's great then. Like if you can not have to rewrite your code all the time, I think that's what this does right. Yeah. So maybe rather than writing this conditional statement, you could use this Hammy plugin to do that for you. Maybe that's what. But I'm using advanced custom fields, so I'm not sure how that will work either.
I tried out Hammy a couple times, and I felt like it was slow for some reason.
Really?
So I think it adds some processing that slowed stuff down.
Cool. Well, if there's no more questions on that, I just have a couple last plugins that I use regularly for media, since it is a media-themed meetup. Let's see that more than. One's called Add from Server. So I had a client that's like, I have PDFs on my server. I can't get to them in my media uploader. I'm like, well, why are they on your server? But anyways, so Add from Server resolved this plugin just fine, or resolved that issue just fine. You can see it's got 147 star ratings, plus it's awesome, pretty much. You can select any file and upload an attachment to your media uploader, and it works great. So I find myself installing this quite a bit. So check that out. Second one, I think a lot of people have used, called video thumbnails. I have a lot of post formats that are videos a lot of times, and you don't want to show, like, the user doesn't want to have to go and take a screenshot of the video or whatever. So this will use, I believe, YouTube, Vimeo, and all the top networks, and basically take a snapshot of that video. If you have your video URL in a custom field, you can specify which custom field to read that URL. So we'll go towards YouTube and Vimeo. Yeah, we'll go to those networks, look at the video, take a screenshot, and set that as your featured thumbnail. So you can output that however you need. It's really good at what it does. And the last one, don't be afraid of this. Plugin has been uploaded and updated in 2 years. It doesn't need to because it's awesome and it hasn't broken. So the reason I use this is for two reasons. The import and attach feature. So what this does is sometimes I'll take over a blog, and for some reason the users have basically attached images from outside sources. They just use the URL and they're hot linking or whatever you call it to these images, which is a bad idea, right? If the image goes away, you have a whole bunch of broken images. What this allows you to do is it'll scan those posts, look for those outside URLs. If it finds one, it brings in that image, attaches it to the post, and uploads. So you're not going to lose those images, and it'll scan all your posts and custom post types. So that's a very neat feature that I haven't found in another plugin. And as well, for the same situation, I take over these old blogs from like Blogger or something. I have to do an import, and they're all like crazy formats and stuff. And I want featured images because the new design I'm building has a thumbnail, and I'm not going to go in and set that for every post. That would just be silly. So what this other tool does is set a feature image. It finds the first attached image in the post and sets that as your featured image. So typically that works very well for what we need, and those two utilities have brought me back to this plugin every time. And it should be way more popular than it is, but you can see only 14,000 downloads, 25 5-stars. People really like it, and it does a great job.
What's someone called again?
Media Tools.
C3N.
That name.
Yeah.
I think it's just called Media Tools, and then C3N is the.
Yeah, just Media Tools. If you broke these other two out into separate plugins, they'd probably be very popular themselves. It has some other utilities in this, but those are the main ones that I use. Other than that, that's all I have.
With the featured image, is there a fallback, or is it just it looks for any image?
No, if there's no image, then what you would do is you would just use like a conditional if post thumbnail, then if not, then just show some default image or something. But yeah, it doesn't like attach. If there's nothing there, it won't attach anything. Yeah, thanks guys.
Okay, this time it really is Chris.
Perryman report.
It doesn't matter. You guys are so alike. Chris Perryman. Thank you.
Where is he? Matt.
Devin, I don't know.
Oh, that's still plugged in. Yeah. Oh, it's in the HDMI. Yes.
Oh, down in the hole.
Under my strange looking mouse.
Actually, is there a?
The other one right here.
Oh. Looks like a stapler. Is there a?
Does anybody have a Mac
adapter?
that they plugged in? Has an adapter?
I might
PCs
have
only.
one. I thought, isn't there usually one here?
Somebody usually has one, but.
Jim.
Oh, we look for.
Adapter.
I might have one.
I think I have it.
MacBooks always have to be prepared for that. Screen warmer.
No, not this one.
It's pretty hot.
Try whatever.
Yeah, the
HDMI
or whatever.
HDMI.
Yeah.
You ever turn it off?
Oh, I
at
need
night?
Well, yeah, and then it burns my eyes. I really want to see colors. Yeah, I know.
I'm like, I know this is not the show, I gotta turn it off. And then I'm like, oh my god.
Do you have the Android?
Android, yeah.
Do you have the Twilight app? It's the same thing.
Same thing? Weird.
Works well.
Nice drop. Clutch.
Damn.
What's that? Matt, do you want me to try the, is that
Yes.
thing working?
Yes, it's been working great actually. See, there you are.
What is this? Slides.com.
Yeah, we've always been whispering about it in the
Oh,
back.
it's awesome. Nobody reads our food plugins blog.
Which one am I doing?
Do whatever one
Desktop.
where you're, yeah,
Just do
desktop.
desktop?
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
there you go. You're live.
Nice.
There you go. Looks great.
That's nice. Oh
Yeah, they're doing
So,
Yeah, make sure you have.
I'm gonna talk about this awesome hat builder website that we're hopefully launching in the next couple weeks. They have a site right now. One of the issues with it was that it's super old, and the hat builder, which I'll show you toward the end, was built with Flash. So they're like, build us a new site. I'm like, okay, cool. What about this hat builder thing? They're like, well, some guy in India did it for us. They're not in business anymore. I'm like, well, we can try and save money and find someone who works in Flash to add these extra features that we need, or we can start over. So we started over, and I'll get to that in a second. But Matt asked me if I wanted to talk about something that had to do with media, and we've got actually all kinds of media goodness going on with the site. One of the big things they're trying to push is a lot of like team involvement. So their main clients are baseball teams. They also do hats for like corporations and stuff, but it's mostly baseball teams. And they want not only like the team to get on board, but the coaches to get on board and like get excitement going on with everyone on the team as far as like building their custom hats. This is a new era product, so I'm sure both boys are kind of familiar. Super popular right now with the flat build caps and the stickers and all that stuff. So every kid wants, you know, a new era hat because I guess that's like what the pros are wearing and everything.
Leave the sticker on.
Leave the sticker on if you want to be super cool. So we actually have the stickers down here. Yeah, which is not working right now, but eventually they'll be able to click on the sticker and it will sort through all the products and just show them that particular type. But so. I'm going to talk about the shopping features. So this is actually the way that they run transactions. All of the custom hats have to be approved by New Era. So they're not actually doing transactions on the website. There's no one's making purchases. They're just making an order inquiry. They send that to New Era. New Era goes through like a big process with their board, approves it, and then they can come back and consult their original order and then process the transaction. So we're using Gravity Forms as like the whole checkout process for this because we didn't really need to have an actual shopping cart. So before I get into like the fun builder thing, we built a solution with advanced custom fields for them to be able to add products. New Era changes their product lines kind of seasonally. Like a lot of the stuff is really basic, but depending on what season it is, they'll add like different colors and textures and things. So from the front end, someone can just choose a hat. This is all Gravity Forms. I know you can't tell. They can choose like what color they want, and then they would go to the next step, which I'll show you, but I'll do that through the custom builder part. So on the back end for adding all these different items, the media part, this is advanced custom fields, a repeater field where they can just add the product. They can use the color selector to choose a swatch that's appropriate for that hat. They name it. And then these fields are auto-populating into the Gravity form. So all of these options here are output on their own. And then just with some jQuery making the slide happen and all that stuff. So that's that. So then the custom hat, which is like the meat of the website. So their first option is the type of hat. So they're not allowed to customize these 4 different types. And the only one I have working right now is this one, so we'll do that. So this is not Gravity Forms right now. And anybody who wants to give me some advice on this, I'm actually having some issues with communication from this to the next form, but we'll talk about that later. So they can choose the style, and then this brings them into the actual, this is now Gravity Forms.
Are you passing your params to the next form?
So I am after this step, but the step before this, not the initial step. So the one I showed you, the stock cap, where they just choose a color,
yeah.
That's a Gravity form that then passes into this form in step 3.
Okay.
So there's this form is standalone, the stock cap is standalone, the rest of the checkout process is another third form.
With Gravity Forms, even if you're doing form by form by form,
right,
you can still pass parameters from one form to the next.
That's working.
Okay.
I could technically make the last step a Gravity form. I just decided not to because that page had so many other things going on that it's like a page template. So maybe I should go back and rethink that. But that is working, and I'll show you that right now. So this is its own form, and the query, it will go into the third form.
But what I'm saying is you could probably do what Yaron did that one time where he basically had like 5 or 6 different actual forms.
Right.
And all he did was he passed the data from one form to the next form.
Right. So that happens after this.
Okay.
So this is one form, and all of this is going to be passed into another form on the next step.
Then why aren't you doing it from the first one?
Because the one I just showed you before this, I mean, just when we started building that page originally, there was a bunch of different things going on with the hat types and like what happens when you click them, and we thought it'd be easier not to use Gravity Forms. So, but we probably should. I don't know. Anyway, so with this is the fun part. It doesn't look as cool on this smaller screen, but
that's a pretty big screen, I gotta say.
Well, I mean, I gotta look at this hat. Should be filling this area over here, but it's only filling like this top portion. But on my big screen at home, it doesn't do that, so I need to check that out. All right. Anyway, so This is a layered SVG now. Yeah, so it's not Flash anymore. And I actually can't take full credit for this part. I hired Nic who's also in our AWP group, because I didn't have time to do this SVG portion, and he did it. And I integrated it with the whole color swatch gravity forms part over here, but he did all this layering stuff, which is fantastic. So anyways, they can come in here, they choose all these different options, and then what will be happening on this page, I still have to finish setting up, is it's going to take a screen capture of what they built, and then at the last step, let them share that with social media. So that brings in the portion where they can be like, hey team, look, we should do this, and this hat's going to be really cool. All right, so now we're going from form, well, technically two, but this is a completely different form. And depending on what you did in the first form, or the form where you were choosing colors on the stock cap, it will come in here. There's some hidden fields that get auto-populated. Depending on what they are, this quantity at the bottom will change either an 8 hat minimum or 18 hat minimum for a custom order, or a 12 hat minimum for the stock cap order. So the rest of this is just one form, because all these fields are the same. It doesn't matter what kind of hat you're ordering. And then they can choose to upload their logos and add comments, so they can, have their own team branding. And then contact info. I usually autofill. All right, so on this final page, this is where their custom image will be showing up, and I have it sort of working. I threw it together today because now it's like, harass, you better be ready.
That's exactly what I said.
So for right now, and this is so painfully slow, and I got to figure out what's going on, but I used this tool that I found, and if somebody has a better recommendation, please tell me, because I looked everywhere. So this grabs it, has its own API, which I was like, oh, perfect, this will be great. Then I found out to do what I actually wanted to do, it's paid. It's like $5.99 a month, which isn't terrible, but defeats kind of the purpose of making this nice and easy. So this is taking a snapshot of the URL that I send it, and I can define it all the way down to like a div with an ID. So this is looking at that original hat builder page, the ID that contains the SVG. And so if I get the query string of what their original choices were on colors, I can definitely pass that and get the colors to output in this image. But
so what are you trying to do? Are you trying to take a picture of a specific segment of the page, essentially?
Right, so hold on, let me check.
And that picture, I'm guessing, is then going to be taken in.
So what I just did on this step, and I chose all those colors, this URL with these parameters will eventually be getting passed to this final page, so that the purple hat that I created will be printed out as a JPEG, and then I can then share that with all my social media. But the drawback right now
to actually do that before you next and pass the screenshot.
Yeah, that's not the problem. I just didn't have time to do it today. So if I get, so watch, if I hit continue, all of this is being passed via or see up here. This is all up here anyway. I just need to grab that, so that's not a problem. The problem is, one, I don't really want to use the service now that I know that it's paid.
How much control do you have over the server?
It's media temple, it's a media account.
Okay, so you can install software.
Yeah, I think we can.
Alright, there's a way to do it with Image Manager, where you actually just pass the full URL with all the parameters, and then it gives you back the full image of the page, and you can crop it however you want, depending on if you know that the hat is going to be in a specific place at a specific time in a specific position, you can do all the cropping and everything in there. So.
All right, well, let me show you real quick.
What's it called? Image Manager.
So
Magic. It's a back-end tool, but it lets you can easily take a snapshot of a page.
So right now, this is their little API thing. I got it. I was waiting for my Dropbox to sync, but it's here now. So this is the page I threw together today just to get this done. But this is what is telling it like where to go, grabbing the API keys and all that. This is the URL. Can you see that? Not really. That's the URL. This is telling it the dimensions, and then telling it to create a JPEG. And then this is the ID of the field that contains that SVG. So, I mean, I guess it's fine, but I don't know if you guys really saw how long it takes this page to load.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, obviously, this shouldn't be sitting here like this. This needs to happen somewhere else. But
you should probably
waiting, like it takes a good.
You should probably send the notice once they have the hat built on the first page.
Is it going to slow down, then load up the next page?
It shouldn't, because there's that new asynchronous tool that what's his name came out with. I forgot the name of it. Yeah, the TechCrunch guys. You probably pass it to that, so that by the time they get to the last page, it's asynchronously ran in the background, so it's not necessarily slowing down the WordPress session that the person is generating in there.
Yeah. So, but does anybody know of a tool that would do something similar that's not Grabsit? Because I don't want them to have to pay, even though it's like $5.99 a month. It's limiting the number of screen captures that can happen.
I am posting how to do it post on the WordPress
Facebook
group right now.
I love you. Okay.
So you're just taking essentially just a screenshot of the completed hat
of the div. So the Grabsit doesn't care what's in it. It can be a form, it can be a table, it can be anything. It will take a screen capture of the browser. It will take a screen capture of all the HTML on the whole page. Or if you get the paid version, which is why I had to pay for it, it'll take a screen capture of a URL down to a specific div with a specific ID. So I just threw an ID onto that div. I didn't have one before, and it works. But I don't want to have to pay for it. I feel like I shouldn't have to.
The link that I posted on the Facebook group page has PHP code on how to do that. And I think for the specific location, for the specific div, you may need to include a different library to be able to do that.
Okay.
But only because I think ImageMagick can take the whole page, and then you can crop out the specific location that you want it to be from. So
you're talking about location in like pixels though, because that might be a problem depending on the device they're on.
Exactly. I mean, there's other tools that do screen capture with.
I mean, I know, like, because you look at things like, I use speed dial. This is doing it all day, and I know they're not probably using Grabsit. So.
Well, they're probably using something.
Well.
Sorry, go ahead.
The thing that comes to my mind is, I feel like there's got to be some way of taking like a screenshot with JavaScript.
And I searched and searched. Like, I did a lot of. I should ask Nick, because he actually had this as like a line item on his original estimate, and the clients were like, "Wow, we only want this and that." I'm like, "Well, I'll try to do it for you real quick." So I need to ask him what his original solution was going to be and see if it's something I can just quickly do.
I do a lot of screen capture for a personal project, the process one I'm working on, and there are tools outside of PHP that do that really effectively. There's Capybara, which does a specific region and area using local area divs. But in PHP, I don't know off the top of my head anything that does it besides calling ImageMagick directly.
Right.
Actually, to take a screenshot.
Well, my first thought was jQuery or something related, and I couldn't find
image capture tends to be a very heavily process-heavy.
HTML5 and JavaScript will do it. There's a lot of demos.
With Canvas.
It looks like using the DOM.
Yeah, I did see a Canvas solution. I can't remember why I decided not to use that. Or if I just saw Grabsit and I was like, oh, perfect, because it did look perfect. And then I didn't know that I was going to have to like open an account and do all this crazy stuff to do something more than just take a capture with their watermark on it of the whole entire page. So.
Well, there's theoretically, a finite number of combinations for these hats, right?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So you can theoretically just do all the
develop all
And then
the
output
solutions.
another
Screenshot of
SVG.
like every single combination.
Oh, screenshot. I was gonna say, I thought you meant I'll put the SVG again. I'm like, then how do they share it? I don't want to do that.
Well, I just write script.
Okay, stop process here. Going back to the image magic concept that I was talking about before, could you put the actual hat itself as it's being processed in like an Ajax? So that the actual page that you're screenshotting isn't the actual page that you're looking at, it's just basically a white page with different hat designs on it. And then you can do an image magic capture of that single page.
Like an iframe?
So are you saying that?
Yeah.
Are you
Well,
saying
like
that
the
image
iframe-
magic doesn't work?
No,
It
image magic
did?
will take, it doesn't by default. You have to sort of have another tool like Copybar or something else that works, that can narrow down the for you. But in this case, because what you're trying to do, and you're trying to do it in PHP and maybe in JavaScript, you could potentially Ajax out
Yeah.
the hat itself into its own separate page.
Yeah,
When
and
you
that
take a
could work.
screenshot using image magic, you're just taking a screenshot of that Ajax page, which doesn't have anything else around it. So that's what you end up looking at the end.
Yeah, that could work. Because the other thing is right now,
Yeah,
this
exactly.
only outputs to one, I gotta like write this only outputs to one test JPEG. That's it, it overrides it every time. That's their default behavior.
Yeah, that shouldn't matter, because as long as you take the image, write them in there, maybe call the image the name of the user section.
Right.
And at the
Well, that's what I was
very
gonna say, so I was gonna set that
Yeah.
up anyway, so what you're doing sounds, like
Makes
it
more
would all
sense.
be built for that same process.
Yeah, but you need to pull what you're doing in the picture itself out into like an Ajax or iframe,
Mhm.
and then when you call image magic with the PHP code that I shared with you, you just call that specific frame, which
But
takes a
did,
picture
you
of
said
just
that image magic might not be on our server? Is
It
that what you're
won't
saying?
be for sure, but if you can install it, it's fantastic, it's amazing.
Okay, I think we can.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris,
Yes.
if we beat that one enough, when you have that drop down for the color selections, is it possible to put a swatch of the color on the description?
So that's what I did, wait, okay, hold on. This?
Yeah, like when you click that, could you put a color, could you put a
Oh,
swatch?
in there, inside. We had that with Flash. I actually had to do like a lot of heavy CSS and stuff to get this to happen because this is a drop down. Doesn't look like one. Obviously, you can tell it's one if you click. But getting these swatches here in the first place was all custom. Honestly, I don't think you can. Right, guys? Like these are options in the select. I don't think you can put a swatch inside of there.
Could you style the color with the color of the swatch? Like style the text?
I don't
with the color?
think you can style anything in an option.
You can change the color, but it looks kind of tacky.
You can change the
background
color of each
color.
of these things, like Scarlet and Cardinal,
Yeah.
really. So I tried doing some option styling with this before for a different thing, and all it would do was, if I tried to change the color, you had to change the whole select.
You couldn't change the background?
No, I've done it. Pretty easy, but it doesn't look good.
Yeah, you could do the background, but
Yeah.
make it white, that would be kind of groovy too.
Just on hover maybe.
Adding classes to your chart.
All right, well, I'll look into that because it is a little more intuitive for the users. Yeah. The original Flash one had like this whole thing that like slid out on the sides with all these colors, and like Devin said, it looked super hideous. But yeah, I mean, no one's gonna know what these colors really are off the top of their head unless they click them. So my idea was to put a key at the bottom if they asked for it. I wasn't gonna do extra work for no reason.
Click
But
on the drop down again. I mean, most of those, like if you change the scarlet red, cardinal red, I mean, you have a pretty good idea what they are without the color.
yeah, I think one of the reasons the colors are called what they're called is because that's what New Era calls them.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we could change it just on the order form. It'd have to go through a different way. But,
It's hard to know the difference between Scarlet and Cardinal, I think.
and Matt said every time I mention Foo, I get $5, so.
Not true. It's not
So
true.
we also have a cat gallery
I get
where
$5.
users can submit the cat that they custom made and then got.
Oh, I
And
thought you
then-
said cat for a second.
And then it's using FooBox and they can share it on Facebook and Twitter.
Hey, that's nice.
Cough it up, Matt.
If only the gallery was Foo Gallery. It'd
He'll
be
give you
perfect.
$5.
It wouldn't be perfect.
Good.
I need this stuff to happen.
That can happen.
Ugh.
Yeah.
It took me 5 minutes to set this up with just straight code. You're lucky that I have one of your plugins on.
I'm lucky. You're lucky.
Top it out. Sponsored by Food Plugins.
All right, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We have
Chris.
Chris. Chris Ford. Does everybody know Chris Ford? If you don't know Chris, you should meet Chris afterwards. Chris is great. When she said yes, I seriously had butterflies.
Yeah, now.
All you need now is Christina. You're like Chris
Chris Weidman.
Chris
Daly. We'll have an all Chris meeting.
Chris Daly.
Way up like first name test.
I actually think an all Matt would be much better, actually. Because there's actually some pretty famous Matt.
Well, yeah, you could get the billing wires.
That's why I'm never going to be famous. Never. I need to change my name to James.
Alright, so let's see if the screenshot is gonna work.
Because you want me to share it on social media
Is it showing up?
Nope, try it again. So after you hit it, there's a share button at the bottom. Hit that one and then hit, yeah. Yep, got it. Oh, it's actually sharing a different page though. Looks like you shared a different screen.
Oh, I got like a bunch of different screens, so am I gonna have to do each one individually?
Share your whole desktop.
Right now what's showing is the Chris Lima is a blogger.
Oh, oops. That's something else I could do. Hangouts. Screen share.
Yeah, it's only going to be able to show one desktop, so you might have to pull those other stuff. Yeah, that no, it's just showing the Chris Lima as a blogger again.
And that one's not even open, so I don't know where it's getting that from.
So I think everything.
Alright, so we'll do screen share again.
That side panel GIF, that's the one that keeps showing. That one, that's the one that keeps showing. Yep, sample Aesop component page.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and everyone here can see my other stuff, but it's not that big a deal. It's just kind of process stuff. It's the crumb that everyone sees. So, does everyone here know what a long form story on the web is? Like you've heard of Snowfall and the New York Times and those kind of stories. A guy named Nick has created a plugin called Aesop Story Engine. Have you guys heard of that? It's basically a plugin that lets you tell long-form stories on the web. So he's created this plugin that lets you choose components. So you can add audio, you can add video, you can add quotes, you can add parallax stuff. And in July, he approached me. I built the original Aesop site, and so he came back in July and he said, hey, we're starting this thing where every 3 months we're going to hire someone to write an original story. And once they've written that story, we want to hire someone to use the Aesop Story Engine plugin to illustrate it and show off what our plugin can do by having these really awesome stories. So this was a monster project. The story wound up being 8,000 words. And so I was the designer, he was the developer, and the really kind of cool thing about the project is as I was designing it, I could hit him up on Skype or email and say, hey, it would be really cool if your plugin did this. And he'd be like, oh, hey, you know, that's easy to do. And I was just like, if I'm asking for something that is completely out of line, let me know. But I'm just going to keep saying, wouldn't it be cool if, which is sort of the job of a designer when they're working with a developer. To say, this is a story, it would be really awesome if we could do this step. So I'm going to kind of go through the process of how we built this thing and how he was able to roll some of those ideas into the plugin as we went along. I am going to go ahead and kind of show you, this isn't the story, this is just a really quick example of how the plugin works if you're not familiar with it. I've built a sample page, and there's basically this add component button added in, and you get this little box where you can say, okay, I want to add a character, which allows you to add a character bio. I want to throw a quote in. And you're able, through this GUI, to add like the width of a component. So I could type in content so that it goes the full width of the content. One of the really nice things about this is while Aesop sells themes, and I actually have one available up there, there's like 5 themes for sale right now. Theoretically, you can use this with any theme. Right now, he's kind of working a new plugin coming out. It's an Aesop Story Engine plugin, and then there's an Aesop Stories plugin, so that you can, and I guess I don't have it installed right, there's actually a custom post type called Stories, where you can go in and add stories that way instead of adding a page with the story components. And there are a lot more options included in this new thing that's coming out. But for now, if you were to just go download the Story Engine, this is kind of how it works. So again, you can add components, you can add background images to a quote, you can change your text color, you can set a specific image area, you can align things, set the size of text, add your quote, and add a citation in there, and it spits all of this stuff out into a story. One of the really important things, I approach this just like any other project, where the first thing I did was wireframes, because we had to include as many components in the plugin as we possibly could, because the whole point of this was to show off how cool the plugin was, and if we only use 2 of them, it kind of doesn't do what the client wants us to do. So one of the first things I did was I wanted to create this little slidey panel deal. There's a component in Aesop called chapters that lets you divide your story up into different chapters. And so like the chapters on this were day 1, day 2, day 3. So at any point you can open the little slidey panel and jump to a certain point in the story, which is good because at a 37-minute read, you might read 10 minutes and then have to come back later. And it's a fast way to jump ahead to where you are. And then one of the other components that they have are contributors to a story. And instead of having them all the way down at the bottom, I wanted you to be able to open the panel up at any time and be able to see who wrote the story, who made the plugin for the story, and who designed the story. And then eventually, as more stories, and if you know me, I'm like the #3 Google resort for why sliders suck. This is actually an appropriate use of a slider, I thought. I think this is the only client I ever recommended should use a slider. It's going to be like a related post plugin that lets you just pop through stories that are like that, because every 3 months a new one's coming out, and if things go well, eventually, you know, there'll be a whole bunch of stories in here. This one is this really kind of weird post-apocalyptic story. So ideally, like, you'd be able to tag them with mystery, and all the mystery stories would load in here. Any comedy ones, all of those would load in. And then the next thing I did is I just kind of sat down and I thought, okay, we need to figure out with this huge, like, I think it was 20-page Google Doc, how am I going to take everything and figure out how to lay it out? I don't want to do it. I did the design, he did the code end of it, because he built the plugin so he could make it dance a little bit better than I could. But I needed to see how I was going to take this huge chunk of content and organize it so that it made sense and made the best use of the plugin. So I just kind of created this big, huge, I wanted to use, this is a chapter plugin where you can set up a specific backstretch image with the chapter header over it, a subheader. I wanted to make sure that this is a quote component right here. There's an icon. I knew I wanted to use more than one column of text, so I just kind of went through and laid everything out. I wanted to make sure I used image captions. I wanted to make sure I used regular images, the quote component, offset images to the side. I wanted to make sure that I used parallax images, and like there's a gallery in here somewhere. I think it's in. This actually got so big that, like, when I got to the comp stage, I have 14 individual Photoshop files of everything that was in there because it just started getting so bloody long that I couldn't keep track of what I was doing. Like, I was spending 10 minutes scrolling to the top of the screen. So, like I did, I wound up with 14 different Photoshop files. So again, here's a regular gallery. Somewhere down here, I've got one of the parallax galleries in one of the WordPress parallax galleries. So once we got the story approved, which was awesome because I knew what I was going to design, I would say it took me like a week to do the wireframes because there was just so much text to go through, and another 2 weeks just to do a Photoshop comp to hand off to the guy. And then probably another week just coming up with doing all of the image research. So you can kind of see, like, this is the Photoshop comp, all composited together. So you can see why I didn't want to scroll through this and all the layers every time I wanted to do something. So basically, the job with this was to pick type that was going to work really well. We used typekit fonts. So I would basically like say, okay, here's this little piece of a Photoshop file. You go ahead and code it so that we can make sure that the type is going to work. We used a really iterative process where it was like, okay, this isn't working, kick it back to me. I'll send you another file. And every time I'd hand a file off to him, I'd start in on the next one. And then once we got about 4 Photoshop files in, we'd done all of the major components. So it became a lot easier to just like shorthand it and be like, I know there's some text in here where it was like, okay, this section is just like the other section, so just do it like that. So it would have been even longer if I'd done every single line of text in there. So we went ahead and put all of this together. And it was kind of cool because it was like, can you do this? A lot of it was just kind of pushing the plugin as far as we could. And if something couldn't be done, let's figure out how to do it. So like if you go to the top, originally you could only upload a featured image, and that featured image would always backstretch and show up underneath the excerpt, which is the quiet day with the title and the author and everything. And I was like, it would be really cool if this curtain, he's talking about how his girlfriend who left him picked out these really shitty lace curtains because they didn't keep the light out of the room. And I was like, what would be really cool is if you could use a video of these curtains kind of waving in the breeze to set the tone of the story. It wasn't built into the plugin, but I pulled the wouldn't it be cool if card, and the next day you're able to upload a video to it. So Photoshop files are all well and good, but what we really want to check out is the actual story. One of the really cool things we added is instead of like just the regular loader, The next version of the plugin is going to have a loader that lets you type in a line of text.
Okay. So as they're reading, it's loaded.
So, you know, you can put one of, like, you can even put in like 5 different messages and it will pick one randomly. Yeah. So, you know, it just randomly picks one of 5 quotes and it gives you something a little different to read every time you load a story instead of, you know, just the flash flippy thing. So, for some reason the video's not working now, but it did the first time I loaded it.
I think it did. It just didn't loop.
If you need cheap video for a project, I cannot recommend pond5.com enough.
What is it?
Pond5.
Cheap video?
Cheap video. I had a $500 budget and I wound up spending like $50 on the videos I used. This one was $30 and all the rest of them cost $10 each.
Pond,
So-
can you spell it? Pond video?
Pond5, like a pond in the ground and the number 5.
P-O-N-D. P-O-N-D.
Yeah, P-O-N-D and the number 5. But I mean, I was looking at Shutterstock and places like that, and I was looking at $90 a video, which was going to kill my budget. And I spent like $50. I also learned how to use Adobe Premiere, which totally sucked trying to do on a deadline, but thank God for Adobe Creative Cloud. And one of the really cool things, one of the problems I had was these videos were turning out huge because they were 30-second videos. So I figured out that if you went in and you like took a little piece out and then cut it in the middle and put the front part at the end, you get a pretty seamless loop instead of having to use the full-on 30-second looped image. So that, and I think I exported them at 720 YouTube.
Did you play with Handbrake?
No.
It's freeware. It'll compress your videos very, very well.
Okay, I'll try that on the next one because, I mean, I haven't used video since I was a Flash designer in the 90s, like 1999. So, hey man, in 1995, that was some cutting edge stuff.
I was making $5,000 per website.
Yeah.
I
You
mean,
gotta work on
like a 5-page HTML.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we did stuff for like gaming computers. We did a Flash invitation for what eventually became the Wynn Hotel. I mean, we got to do some rad stuff because we knew how to do Flash. But yeah, it was like a total crash course in how to edit video and make it work in this thing. So again, we were able to go through, and this is a quote component. Every quote component had the quote, and then we went ahead and the site, we just put in something other than the person who was saying it and used the citation CSS to have a couple of different type styles in there. This is a chapter stop right here. So each day kind of has a different chapter, and here's that sliding panel I was talking about. So, you know, these are all the story contributors, and this is just pulled from back here. If you go into add a component, that's not in here either. But there was actually a contributor component that you could add where you could just add individual contributors and it would pop them into that sliding panel. And you can see, like, if we hit day 3, it just jumps you down to day 3, day X, day 13. So you're able to jump around in the story fairly easily. And then other than that, we used a lot of video. There's sound in here, but I'm not hooked into sound, and you probably don't want to hear, like, one day when I was working on this, I had it up at a certain spot, and all of a sudden it was like, well, and I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. I was, you know, running all over the house, and it was the project I was working on.
I'm sorry, so there is audio for those videos?
Yeah, well, and there's also an audio component that you can hide, and you can set the audio to play when you scroll to a certain point and to stop when you scroll past it. So there are a couple of points where at one point someone's talking about all you could hear, it was so quiet, was the wind and the birds. And so even though all that's on the screen is text, it's this hidden audio component. The URL is Aesop story SERI.es / The Quiet Day, which is the title of the story. And if you have sound, you can kind of get the full audio-visual experience.
And video does that as well. You scroll past
Video
it,
does
and
that
it's
as well. It only starts when you scroll to it, and everything's lazy loaded so that you don't have to wait for, you know, an 8,000 word story's worth of video and audio to load before you can read the story.
Out of curiosity, does it fade in or does it automatically?
It kind of automatically comes in.
Is that it?
Yeah, like the static loop is a video, and so it looks like it just starts playing as soon as you go through. And so, you know,
Does it stop when you go past it?
yeah, so that it's not still giving you a hit on performance once you pass it. So, you know, again, just a bunch of images, another chapter header. This is kind of cool when the audio comes on. It's talking about the electricity going out. So when it comes on, a song starts playing, and at a certain point, you know, there's a bzz where it cuts out. It goes from you know, the city to the lights going out and the moon coming up. My favorite part is down a little bit further. That video's not playing for some reason. This is supposed to be a loop of, it's a time lapse of a sunrise, sunset. It actually isn't live yet, so he's still working out some of the kinks. This is kind of like a limited beta release where people are banging on it and trying it out and seeing what doesn't work. So the only people who can kind of see it are the people who have the link right now, which is why some of this stuff, in fact, I'm going to be sending an email when I get home about the stuff that isn't quite working right. And again, like, it's just, this is an image component matched up with a quote component that has different styling on it. And most of this stuff is just done with CSS. It's all the same components over and over again. You know, just a standard image gallery. And this is kind of, again, you come in, and it looks like if you scroll, the video doesn't, dude, I don't know why my arrow keys are doing that, but that needs to be addressed too. But it looks like it may be the internet connection too, why some of these aren't, the videos aren't loading right. But there's a cool parallax gallery down here later where a conversation between him and another guy happens in a gallery to show how that works. And so you're able to just kind of illustrate a story, create a mood, share it. You can subscribe to updates so that my original suggestion on this was to like take each day and release it as a I don't know if you guys, in the 90s, Stephen King had this story called The Plant, which I'm still mad because he never finished it. Like, I even wrote him an email not too long ago. I'm still mad at you because he never finished that damn story. I never. But it would be a really cool thing to do, would be to create serialized stories, or another guy who's using it does graphic novels. So each issue of a graphic novel can come out. You can integrate it. Yeah, what's that?
Bill Gates is using that on his Gates Foundation report, annual report. He's using like a format like that. Like, it's not that long, but it's the same kind of thing with chapters.
It's becoming like a really big thing. I know Medium does a lot of that stuff, and
for someone who started out as a journalist, it's really exciting to me that we're moving beyond the blog post can only be 500 words. You can get a little more in-depth into stuff.
How soon before we start seeing all sorts of fun pop-up ads show up in Parallax?
Anything that can be used for good can be used for evil. So, you know. But I'm really excited about the idea of people being able to tell more in-depth stories in a way that isn't being done right now, because I mean, honestly, if I were to rebid this story later, I would have charged about 4 times what I actually charged, because now that I know how long 8,000 words is, it doesn't sound like a lot until you have 14 Photoshop files behind it. But I think that as people start finding plugins and finding themes, I don't know if you guys have seen the Divi theme by Elegant Themes. If you're a hardcore coder, you probably hate it with the passion of 1,000 fiery suns, but as a designer, I love the thing because I can go in and do what I need to do visually and get out without having to learn about hooks and all of the code to make it happen. And I think that putting that power in the hands of people who do tell visual stories, people who are not necessarily as smart as the people in this room, is going to really move the power of telling stories, which, when you think about it, like, that's what blogging is, right? That's why the internet kind of even started, was people telling stories. And so I'm really excited about the plugins that are coming out, the themes that are coming out, that make it possible for storytellers to tell stories. So that's kind of my whole little spiel. Questions? Yeah.
I have 2 comments and a question. First of all, Handbrake is awesome, but there's a little bit of a learning curve. If you don't want the learning curve, I think you can simply upload your videos to YouTube and then download the FLV, and it will be optimized.
But
I
then
was
it's an
able
FLV and
to,
not
with the
MP4.
Adobe Media
It's a-
Media Encoder, get them down to like 2 megs, which wasn't
Handbrake
too
does a
bad.
better job.
Handbrake does do a better job. There's a slight learning curve, though.
But the problem with doing it that way is then you have an FLV is an MP4. Like Handbrake will spit out an MP4.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
Format.
Okay, my second comment is, this would be great for kids' books. Because
I actually-
then they get all the stuff, you know, instead of having like a pop-up, it's actually visual. It would also be great for college study guide, because you get the 3 modes, you can read it, you can view it, and you can hear it, so you'll remember it better.
I actually have a really good friend who, if you guys aren't familiar with SCBWI, it's the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, and he has this awesome presentation he does, because there's a lot of resistance in the publishing industry to digital storytelling, because they're used to doing things in a certain publishing way. And he has this great presentation he does where he calls it, you know, this is the perfect thing. And he takes a chair up on stage and he puts it out and he goes, this is a chair. And there are all different kinds of chairs. There are office chairs, there are lazy boy recliners, there are Eames chairs, but every one of them lets you sit in it. The purpose is the same. And it's the same thing with stories. It doesn't matter whether it's a verbal story or a story on an iPad or a book. The perfect thing is the telling the story. And so I definitely have a meeting scheduled with him to show him this, because we've been talking for a long time about how to tell better stories, especially to kids, because when he approached me like 2 years ago to talk about like ebooks, I was like, there's no way a 3-year-old is going to be able to do all of this interactive stuff. And then I saw my 2-year-old niece like flipping through Angry Birds, and so I mean, just
Charlie Brown Christmas Special is really popular. Too.
yeah, I totally agree. I think kids' books would be super awesome, whether with this tool or something else. But
And one more question. Have you heard of Scrivener? Scrivener is a desktop tool for both Mac and Windows that many writers use to structure their story and write their story in it. If this could import from Scrivener That would be a
You
great
should
thing.
send Nick Haskins an email or a tweet. He's NP Haskins on Twitter. But pretty much all I have nothing to do with like the coding of the plugin, or I just branded the company and have been doing their visual stuff. Like this was one of the very first projects where I didn't touch any CSS. Like even on their website, I was like, okay, you know, but I want to be able to go in and I'd like tweak the CSS, and this was the first one I was totally hands off, and it drove me nuts. Like I was so OCD, and I just had to let it go and let someone else code it. And but yeah, Nick is awesome. He's really active on Twitter, and he's really open to making this the best tool he possibly can. So if you've got ideas, totally hit him up. He's a great guy. He's so awesome.
I was going to say, do you know how to change the file size of your videos before you output them on Premiere? Because I work with Premiere a lot, and it's really, really simple to change that, so that way you don't have to.
Like the whole time I was doing this, like it wasn't even included in the initial bid, but you know how designers are, like I wanted to make sure it turned out right. So my Premiere process was, I don't know how to do this, and I Google a tutorial and try it out. Like I was actually trying to do it in After Effects first, which was so bad. And so like after 3 days of trying to get the first video to work, I got it to where it was good enough, and then he knew enough about it to take, and he very well may have run it through the tools that you had. I was just like, I mean, that, and I had to do some audio editing, and it was seriously Google a tutorial and try it and hope to God it worked, and when it didn't, Google another tutorial. So definitely give me your card, because if we do another one of these things, I'd love to hire like an actual video person to put together way more complex videos than my like super primitive
I can do all the complex stuff. I just know how. I'm the same way as you. I just edit my YouTube videos within Premiere, and I know how to change the outputs or the file size before you actually output the videos. But obviously, as you increase the file size, you decrease the quality. But I mean, if you're dealing with something like a video that's running in the background, you don't need it to be like 1080p or something.
Oh yeah, like the first one, I was like, we'll output this as an HD video, and it was something like 400 megabytes, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think anyone's gonna wait for that. And the nice thing is like we built in for mobile, anything smaller than a tablet goes to a image instead of the video, so that at least you're not waiting for them on your iPhone. So there is some stuff like that built into just trying to make the experience for people on mobile a little less painful. Anyone else?
Appreciate it.
Oh, and they're free. It's a free plugin. It's downloadable from the WP Codex, so you can go and download it and try it and start building stories in it in any theme. When I was building comps for this, I was doing it in 2014, and it looked great. So you gotta love free.
Thank you.
Right, I will keep it super brief so everybody can get out of here. I wanted the whole evening to be shorter, but we had such great presentations that it went on. And I like that everybody felt comfortable, and we got lots of back and forth with basically all the presentations. I thought that was really good. So we've been working on FooMedia for a while. And FooMedia, the very first thing that we're going to be releasing with FooMedia is basically what we're calling FooCapture. It's if you do anything with blogging for WordPress at all, then you probably had to do screen captures. And is this the best way for me to do this? Probably not. You probably had to do screen captures to do tutorials or whatever. And you know that with you do a screen capture, and basically you capture the thing, it saves it somewhere on your computer. You can then you can put it into Dropbox if you want, but then you have to optimize it, and you have to upload it into WordPress and place it in, and you got to add your alt tags and your title tags and all of that stuff, all that additional step. Basically just doing one screen capture shot, and when I do tutorials for Food plugins or for any of our documentation, I'll have at least 4 or 5 screen captures per article. And on our documentation site right now, we have, I don't know, 200 articles. So it gets just super tedious. So this whole service, basically, that we're putting together called FooMedia.io is it comes out of a pain point for us. So we created basically our first our first Chrome extension that is a screen capture tool, which will allow you to do the screen capture and upload it directly to your WordPress site. So you don't have to download it to your hard drive. You don't have to deal with it in all those other ways. And we're going to add that's not there yet, but we're going to be adding image optimization automatically into that process as well. But what I can show you today is just the basic screen capture process. And I know that any of you who are paying attention, as soon as I say you can upload it to your WordPress site right away, you're wondering about authentication. That's basically done with the REST IPA that's coming out. That's going to be core in WordPress in 4.1. At this point, is what they're saying is it's going to be 4.1. But the place where it is already available is with Jetpack. That is basically the authentication. All the authentication you need for connecting to a WordPress site is already built into Jetpack, and of course it's in all the .coms. So basically we use the WordPress.com authentication that already exists and already has an API, and it's already available in Jetpack. And so that basically any site that has Jetpack can use FooCapture to upload their images straight into their WordPress sites. Does that make sense? I think that's kind of a mouthful because there's a couple tools that are coming out more and more. Like there's one on the Tavern that just talked about sending a Google Doc straight from Google Docs straight to your WordPress install. They use the same authentication. There's tools that are coming out that use this right now, but they're kind of, because the REST API isn't actually core yet, people I think are a little bit not ready to go full board with it. But it's going to be core, and it is already available, and it is built into Jetpack, and so the capability is there, and so we're taking advantage of it. Are there questions or concerns about that or anything, just because that's kind of a big issue? Any comments, hopes, dreams, aspirations? All right, cool. Yeah?
Have you taken a look at, what's it called, the Screen Steps or Clarify? Have you seen that tool?
Mm-mm.
I used Clarify for a while. It's a documentation maker. It takes a screenshot and it creates a PDF out of it. You can also export it to an HTML document. And they just came out with Clarify 2, which I think has some sort of WordPress plugin. I haven't checked it out to see exactly what it does, but you can check it out and see if there's anything.
Clarify.
Yeah.
And you would call it. You would call it a Clarify screen capture tool?
It's called Clarify. I'm not sure what the URL is. I think it's clarify-it.com might be it.
Well, I thought he was already on the site and I see the food gallery thing, and I was like, ah!
No. Everybody's using food gallery now. I just went there to highlight. So I haven't authenticated or anything right now. I'm going to look it up because honestly I haven't seen anything that deals with images and WordPress authentication here.
Yep, that's it.
So right now I haven't done any of my authentication or anything. All I did was install the Chrome extension. And no, I'm sorry, I can't give it up. But right now you could capture a part of the screen, you could capture a whole screen. This isn't going to be there eventually. This is for testing right now. And then you could view the captures that you already have. So I'm going to do a part of a screen. I just click it. Just like standard type of screen capture ideas that you normally get other places. Now it's there, and then we just have a lot of the basic editing type tools. But you'll notice right away that you see WordPress image attachment metadata available right away. So you can do that right here. You have your screen capture already. Here's your title. Here's basically the image name, which you could change right here if you want to. You can add the caption. You can add the description. So all that stuff is done. And then we have a pencil tool. We have a highlight tool. You know, just kind of like standard editing tools. We have arrows. You know, standard stuff. But you know, it's a screen capture tool. I like to pixelate, you know, because every once in a while there's sensitive stuff on the screen I don't want others to see. Now you can't even tell that says Food Gallery at all. There we go. 10. 10 will do it. Oh, there you go. That is Arabic. All that's there. I'll just do this for kicks.
Will it do capture scrolling?
Say it again.
Capture scrolling. Start at the top of the screen and then the screen scrolls automatically?
Not at the moment. It's like top of the list though.
Okay.
So basically, it's going to be a free Chrome extension, and everything you just saw is going to be available for free, and then you can download it right there. But the upload part is the part that's going to be a premium part where you can upload it to your WordPress site. And so I'm going to hit upload, and it's going to say login required. Actually, I haven't done this on my laptop yet. This is exciting. So you can log in. You could create an account with any of your social media channels that you want. I'm going to do it. I actually already have an account, but I'm going to go with my Google account just for fun. So now this is, of course, this is the actual FooMedia.io site, and it's just using 2012 for now. We're still working this part out. So I mean, you guys are really seeing like alpha stage type development for it. And so basically, you just have your connect to WordPress. It says WordPress.com. That's just the default WordPress.com connect button. But of course, because we're using Jetpack and whatnot as well. Then I can connect to any of my sites. If I can remember my. All right, just 1 second. Actually. Where's my mouse? There it is. of it, I did remember it. So, and then I could select from all my 2 bazillion different accounts. I just select it and I hit authorize, and then it's added to my list of authorized sites. And this one that I just picked is actually a WordPress.com. But you can, like I said, you could add anything that's that has Jetpack enabled on it as well. So once that's there, you just select it, and you hit start, upload in progress. It's there.
How long does it hold that session information?
I don't know. I'm not sure. That's a good question. Actually, I think once it's authenticated, it could probably stay there for quite a while, because then you're actually having an encrypted login for that session, for that information, for where the screen captures are actually stored. It's a good question. I'm not totally sure.
So is that uploading to the media gallery, or it's creating a post?
It's actually going straight to the media gallery. Yep, go straight to the media gallery. So then, if you have you're creating your post right there, you just go add media, and there it is, and it's included with all the caption, description, title, all that's there automatically. So that's the idea, and then the optimization part is going to be added a little bit later, and we're actually going to be talking about lots of different ways that we can utilize FooMedia.io as an image storage place for WordPress sites, optimization, all that kind of thing. So this is just the first little step in what we're planning and hoping to be a much larger and more significant project. So yeah, that's the snippet part. And I'm not showing you it actually in the media library because we didn't finish it before today. But we actually had it already done on a different version of this, and then we changed our whole authentication process. And so that hasn't been done since the new authentication process. But yeah, that's the idea. So the whole FooCapture basically is what we're hoping to launch with its connection to FooMedia this month, within the next 10 days or so. And so that should be ready. And then as the year progresses, you'll just see more conversation from us about FooMedia and everything that it offers for WordPress websites and everything. So, yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Give us a hint about what's coming up.
Think of what you can imagine. What would you do with a third-party image storage area? I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, basically, we'll be talking about image optimization, automatically syncing with your media library, and CDN type functionality, just things like that. In a lot of ways, it'd be. I mean, yeah, you can imagine. But all of that is just in the beginning stages of conversation. But this was designed to be the foot in the door for all of that. So.
You guys are in San Diego?
I'm in San Diego, so yes.
So as we imagine, we should post you and say, I'm imagining this.
Yeah, so
it's coming.
Don't try to pull a Chris on me. Well, it would be amazing if media could do this.
Free advice, right?
Exactly. Yeah. The thing is, I'll just know what's happening. I'll just know I'll know it's a subtle form of manipulation. But
You have auto response that says, and that's coming soon.
Yeah. So yeah.
It would be nice if we didn't need Handbrake.
Say it again.
It would be nice if we didn't need Handbrake.
Oh, to optimize videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice if there was peace in the Middle East. No, I'm just saying. No, it's a foot in the door. It's a foot in the door.
You want video or you want peace? Which one?
Yeah, cool. Great.
Awesome.
Good job, everybody.
Thank you very much.
And it's 9 o'clock. We have to get out. We are late. But I'd love to grab a drink with anybody. I posted it in the meetup.com. There's a spot just a couple blocks down called The Local. Chat with me afterwards if you'd like to go. Rob, do you know anything about The Local?
Local's amazing.
That's what I thought.
You know,